All right. We're going to move on to our next topic. And our next topic is, what do we think, or no, what is it? What do you think the U.S. government or Americans, whichever one you pick, should do to reach, to help the area reach a more stable solution? So, and try to focus on, I guess, I don't want anyone advocating for going over there, I would say, just as a short answer. We're not going to advocate for going over there, just to preface.
I certainly hope not.
Okay, if you understand what I mean by that.
We should run Gaza.
Oh no, I meant individuals going over there and.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. Apply white savior syndrome to this.
Very white savior.
Let's do that. Yeah, that's how we solve this, guys. Okay. There we go.
But yeah, focus on things we can do at home, or that our government thing is obviously can be things that they're going to go over and do there, but that we can do here at home to help. We're going to keep going in the same order. Noah, Olivia, Oliver.
Cool. I'm curious to hear what other people are going to say. As far as the U.S. government, I think the U.S. government under Biden and Anthony Blinken has been excellent, other than Biden saying some dumb shit about Olivia brought up that he repeated the 40 beheaded babies thing, which wasn't true. I think that was really dumb, didn't help anything. But in general, other than that, I think the U.S. has done a fantastic job funneling huge amounts of humanitarian aid to Gaza, basically forcing Israel and Egypt, who had no interest in letting humanitarian aid in, basically saying, you got to do this, and Israel and Egypt both conceded. I don't think many other countries on planet Earth could have convinced them other than the Blinken-run State Department. I think that's the exact kind of thing we need to do. Keep pushing humanitarian aid into the region, and I support that method. I think there's some numbers that Gaza has received a huge proportion of humanitarian aid compared to many, many other countries undergoing significant conflict. And, I think that's the right path, and keep doing that.
Olivia.
Interesting. So I think the U.S. government has actually been incredibly obstructionist in the peace efforts, and I think it's just straight up propaganda and lies that Egypt did not want to let humanitarian aid into Gaza, especially when before the conflict hundreds of aid trucks went in a day. And so I don't know why Egypt would suddenly stop sending in aid as soon as a conflict escalates. But anyway, I can send you sources on that. I've been taking notes on things to send you maybe non-Western media sources for. But Biden has not really helped humanitarian aid reach Gaza. And in fact, he has been, and not just Biden, but the U.S. government has been instrumental in watering down efforts in helping Gaza. We were the only no vote for a ceasefire. The USNC vote that just happened today, we were one of the only 4 countries that abstained from voting, which is absolutely ridiculous because we are the reason the vote was delayed by 5 days, because we wanted to make sure that there was no mention of a ceasefire within that document. Another insane thing for the U.S. to do. I think our senators standing there and saying that there can be no possibility of a ceasefire is ridiculous. I think that's the most basic starting point. A ceasefire literally just means a ceasing of aggressions from both sides. And I think what the U.S. citizens can do is put extreme pressure on their governments and, especially on their local representatives. I've always held the opinion we need to be far more involved in how our government operates and runs. U.S. citizens can boycott. They can call their representatives. They One thing I've recently become fully convinced of is that we need to start shaming our fellow people, anyone in your immediate life that like holds an insane opinion about this. Like, they should be shamed for it. You know, Starbucks assisting genocide, people should be shamed for that. And so I think that's what people should really be doing. I think shame is an incredibly powerful effector of change. That's where I stand.
Okay. Just to be clear, only boycott if you're in one of those states where you're apparently allowed to boycott. As I will,
God.
I'm not going to comment on how I feel about that as the moderator, but in California, in
California, you as an individual, you actually are allowed to boycott. Do whatever is in your means, you know. But boycotts work, friends.
Yes, which we can argue about. I just want to be clear that none of us are advocating for doing anything like illegal.
Yep. Unless you own a business that is about to sign into a contract with the government and take thousands of dollars of government money, you should be okay from the BDS laws that this insane country has.
Oliver.
Yeah. What was the question that you asked?
What can the U.S. government and or like Americans do to like support some sort of peaceful resolution or whatever you think is the best thing that could happen over there, essentially?
Oh man. Let me think about that for a second. I guess I want to first say that I agree with some of what both of you said, not all of what either of you said. I think that at the very beginning of the war, Biden virtue signaled way too much support for BB to the U.S. citizens and the international audience. In Israel, it's my understanding that it was not read that way, that our presence was very much okay, you're going to do what you're going to do, but don't lose your minds. I think the fact that we support Israel, on one hand, it means they have something to lose if they act too terribly. And on the other hand, I think we've raised a spoiled child. In terms of a ceasefire, that's tough. I don't want to be the person advocating for more violence. I think the question of a ceasefire comes down to, if you believe that a ceasefire right now, after however many years of fighting, will truly stop this and lead to positive negotiations, you should advocate for a ceasefire. If you think that it will mean that this conflict will inevitably reignite and be many times worse in just a few years, I guess don't. I don't want to advocate for one or the other on that, because I feel like there's a lot of, this is a very real conflict. This isn't just some hypothetical scenario. I'm not an expert on that. I don't want to be the person telling people to do or what not to do, when it could have very real effects on how many people live and die. I think that at the end of this war, I think as U.S. citizens, what we need to push for, regardless of how this war ends, we need to push for our government working with the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, whatever organization, whatever leadership is around in Palestine, to work towards a two-state solution, and we need to pressure the Israelis to do the same thing. It seems very clear that BB was probably done right before this war, before October 7th, the IDF reserves were on strike and all this other stuff, because, he was trying to neuter the judiciary so that they could annex more land. I think he was already done. I think he's even more done than ever now when this war is over. More than likely, someone who shares the Israeli intelligence establishment's assessment that a two-state solution is absolutely necessary, even for their own sake. Someone like that will likely come to power, I think. I'm not saying it will happen for sure, but I think it's very likely. So we need to pressure Israel to doing everything it unilaterally can to work towards a peaceful resolution, whatever that looks like when this war is over. And that much is absolutely certain. This conflict isn't just a threat to Palestine, it isn't just a threat to Israel, it's a threat to U.S. politics and global peace. Yeah, we cannot just let this go on forever. There must be a peaceful resolution to all of this.
Okay, I gotta cut you off there.
You're good.
Can I jump in here? I want to talk about boycotts. I heard some quite inflammatory statements about boycotts that I don't think there's any factual basis in. First of all, there's no law in any state that prevents anyone from boycotting, an individual from boycotting, I should say. Government, individuals and businesses can boycott in every state. Some states have passed laws where the government cannot implement contracts with businesses that are boycotting. I think it's a silly law. That doesn't prevent anyone from boycotting. If anyone disagrees with that, we can pick a state and look at the law. I think it's going to be very, very clear that anyone can boycott and private businesses can boycott. And then the other point I want to make is, or I guess a question to Olivia is, how did Starbucks
just real quick so we don't get caught up on this. If there was a law where an individual or a private business couldn't boycott, it would be a bad law, right?
Absolutely. Well, yes. But it would be unconstitutional. I don't think that any law could ever exist like that.
So
we'll send you the laws later. We don't have to get wrapped up in.
That's what I'm saying. Let's not argue about that because we all agree if there was a law, it'd be really bad. Okay.
We all agree on that. Okay. Yeah.
and I'm just curious, how has Starbucks assisted genocide? Because I don't know where that claim comes from.
You know, I'm actually. There's so many we are boycotting that I can't remember what they did. I know that they donate somehow to the IDF. Let me.
Can you send me that one too?
I'll come back to you on that.
Because I haven't been able to find that one either.
I will send you that.
Starbucks has simply not donated to the IDF. That's just nonsense. The claim basis.
I did start this with saying there's too many to keep track of. There's plenty of things to boycott for different reasons. I will find you the reason people are boycotting Starbucks. There is legitimate reasons. You know, we aren't just like, oh, fuck Starbucks all of a sudden. You know, people had legitimate addictions to Starbucks.
I disagree. I mean, I've talked to a ton of people about the Starbucks issue. It comes down to two claims. One, that an ex-CEO of Starbucks, years removed from being affiliated with Starbucks, donated to a private Israeli company that was the IDF. And so people said, oh, he likes Israel, Starbucks bad. He had not been part of Starbucks for years at that time. And it was his private money. Two, the other claim is that Starbucks sued its union for copyright violation following a statement supporting the Palestinians immediately after October 7th. And it was widely seen as an endorsement of their acts on October 7th. But at the end of the day, Starbucks was suing for trademark violation, use of Starbucks's.
I think that's just tone deaf. That was the reason that I heard about it. Sorry,
and
it's the union thing, but I do think that that's tone deaf. Suing for copyright, easy excuse. You know, why on the pro-Palestinian post? Why,
because it followed immediately after an attack on civilians, a rape of civilians. It was entirely inappropriate. But at the end of the day, the problem with what Starbucks did was not because it had anything to do with Israel Palestine. It's because it was anti-union. Unions are awesome, and they should let the union do what it wants to do. But the wrong they did was anti-union.
Right, so boycott it for that reason.
But every business is anti-union. Every single business on the planet. And every union is anti-business. That's how the balance works. So are you saying boycott every business?
Hold on. If we... Can we pick a different brand? Maybe like just a suggestion. We could argue over Sabra hummus, maybe. You know.
Let's do that one.
Oh my god.
This one.
You know what? Boycott Starbucks. Don't boycott Starbucks for whatever reasons you choose. They're very much anti-union. I think it's disingenuous to claim that it was a copyright issue and not them silencing pro-Palestinian voices. Because, like, as far as I remember, the Union Post did not, like, glorify the Hamas attack in any way.
It came immediately after it. I mean,
Sure,
come on.
it came immediately after it. Did it say, yeah, go Hamas, or did it just say, like, hey, remember Palestinians are still suffering?
It was an endorsement of Palestinian action immediately after what Hamas did. They didn't specifically say, I'm glad Hamas
Palestinian action of what?
Well,
What sort of Palestinian action?
It's heavily implied they were endorsing the October 7th attack. Which I think is dumb, but they can do whatever they want. That's fine.
I think it sounds like you're reaching. You know,
how is it reaching?
I don't think... Just because, you know, plenty of voices on October 8th, on October 9th, even on October 7th, that have never been confused about this, still said, yes, the attacks were atrocious, please remember Palestine. We still stand with Palestine. I don't think that that is a call to terrorism. And I think, again, I think it's tone deaf. You know, fine, don't boycott Starbucks, but McDonald's literally donated burgers to the IDF. Is that good enough to boycott? Like, I'm just saying, like, you want to be effective as a citizen in this country, one that runs on capitalism, use capitalism as your weapon. I don't want to get bogged down in the details of, like, well, did Starbucks do something bad enough? Did Kim Kardashian, do you believe that she wrapped her Christmas presents in white shrouds because she wanted an all-white Christmas theme? Or was it because she's mocking the dead Palestinians? Personally, I don't care which answer you arrive at, but, like, let's just try not to be tone deaf.
Well, if we're going to call on people to boycott businesses, I mean, I think it does matter what they did, and to talk about what they did to justify that. I mean, for McDonald's, I mean, are you going to blame all of McDonald's because of what a Israeli franchisee did?
Yes.
You've got McDonald's all over the Middle East who actively supported Palestinians, and you've got McDonald's that took no position, but a business person in Israel that's not part of corporate McDonald's. I mean, you're going to say that boycott all McDonald's, boycott the Israeli McDonald's, fine, but I don't understand why you're going to boycott other McDonald's that have been pro-Palestine.
Putting the pressure on the bigger umbrella corporation is how you get change. You know, we're not boycotting this just because we don't want to give the Israelis our money. Like,
You cut out again.
Olivia, you're cut out.
We can't hear you.
Talk again.
It's weird that her audio just like randomly cuts out and then cuts back in.
Dude, right?
Now she's totally frozen. Okay, no, she just
am I back?
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay. No echoing issues? Okay. Where did I get cut off?
Pretty much your whole response.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. So, do you think you should still boycott McDonald's corporation for something that their franchisee did? Point is to put pressure on the bigger powers, you know? They're the ones, if they start losing money, even if they do not care about anything else about this conflict, they will start pushing for change. You know? It's not about the Israeli McDonald's. It's about never supporting a brand that in any way gets associated with genocide. I don't think that that's a hard line in the sand to draw. You know? And like, my heart does not bleed for big corporations. If they're anti-union and they just, accidentally got wrapped up in this Palestinian boycott, they still deserve to go down.
Well, every business on planet Earth is anti-union.
I'm going to try
And they all deserve to hurt for that.
I'm going to try to like drive the conversation a little bit more forward. Noah, are there some businesses that we might want to boycott depending on what they do versus other businesses?
If you can name me a business that says I support, wiping out all Palestinians, I wouldn't go to that business. But I don't think that's the case with the businesses that have been named. And two, I support genocide. Well, can you explain what your position is that a genocide is happening? I mean, working with the ICC definition.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So the ICC definition, it's like one of the very first things it says is that it says the intent to wipe out in part or in whole, right? A population based on whatever identity. The intent is there, Noah. I know people have trouble calling things out as they happen, but the intention of this is genocide because the people cannot leave Gaza. Okay? There is an iron dome on one side, there is the sea on the other side, there is a border, they cannot go anywhere. So if you're carpet bombing them... Sorry?
Oh, no, you're good. Please continue.
Yeah, just go ahead.
If you're carpet bombing them and there is nowhere for them to go, the intent is genocide. Even if you say we are trying to avoid civilian populations, even if you say anything else, if there is nowhere for the population to go, and all that is left for them is to die, that's genocide.
Can I?
Yeah. You can respond, and then I can go after, or Olivia can respond, and then I'll go after.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say that specifically within this context, I don't think Israel can get away with genocide. They've been getting away with slow ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, and I think they've done homicide. They've done, terrorism, crimes against humanity. And absolutely collective punishment. But I would say that numerically, from a combination of how dense Gaza is, and let's say for example Mariupol, right, in Ukraine. The siege of Mariupol, that was something where civilians had somewhere to go. And I believe the pre-war numbers are somewhere around 400,000 civilians. And the Ukrainian estimate from the government is 25,000 killed, and another organization, a reputable organization, said it could have been as many as 75,000. So if we scale that for, the middle estimate, right, of 50,000, and you were to apply that to Gaza, you'd be at well over 200,000 dead. And that's not even mentioning that Gazans actually have nowhere to go. I would say that the clear intent here has been everything but genocide, just to nitpick that one term.
I know it's hard to call out as it's occurring, and I promise you hindsight will be a blessing here, but people keep getting wrapped up in the numbers. And the numbers do not matter as much as the intent, especially because this is an ongoing genocide. It has not ended, We are not, on the last couple of days. We do not see how long that this is going to play out for. That's one. Two is that I very specifically pointed out intent instead of the numbers because I don't even know how to say the name, but the massacre that happened in Bosnia during the Bosnian War in Srebrenica, it killed 8,000 Muslim men and boys. We have no problem labeling that as a genocide. The intent was clear, to get rid of all of the Muslims in the land. It didn't work, but it was still a genocide. and it didn't reach anywhere near the numbers of some other genocides, but that does not disqualify it from being a genocide. And you can look at what the Israeli politicians say, what their plans are for Gaza, when they say they want to build Tomorrowland 2024 there, when they say they want to level it and turn it into a parking lot, you know, like they constantly say things that make it clear that the intent is genocide. And just because they can't get away with it doesn't mean that that's not what's happening. You know, and I agree. They're not going to actually be able to commit genocide. And it is, ethnic cleansing is part of the definition of genocide. You know, it's like rectangle.
It falls
sorry.
within the. I know what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't really want to get wrapped up in definitions, especially because, like, that's something that history can determine down the line. I do believe it's a genocide from what I have seen happen, but even if it were not, even if it were ethnic cleansing, and if it were like mass punishments, that's still wrong. You know, even if it hasn't quite hit the level of genocide, it's wrong. And any business, even somewhat supporting it, it doesn't deserve your money.
I want to say that part of why I'm uncomfortable just calling it genocide is because I want to be able to reserve that word for in the event that I don't think this conflict can get there due to Israel requiring international support. But if, God forbid, something actually were to happen, I'd want to use that word and not have it be watered down.
I respect that, but I also think that it's just as easy down the line to call it a failed genocide because the intent is there, you know? And like, I think truly that is one of the key things that makes something a genocide.
I disagree on the intent too. I think the intent, well, I don't know. It's weird. There's definitely Israeli politicians who really just want to push Gazans into the Sinai. But as for the IDF's military strategy, considering that Israel can't get away with that, I think the intention has been domiciled very specifically on some level to destroy all the homes in the area for certain and collective punishment. I don't think we can accurately say that the intention has been genocide, at least not yet. But yeah, anyway, sorry, we're arguing over semantics.
Maybe we can talk about it again, but I honestly, turning off food and water, one of the hallmarks of a genocide, and like of a siege as well, but like it's how you get to genocide. But
yeah,
it's definitely something that
is inexcusable. Yeah,
it's inexcusable. No matter what history decides to call it, it's inexcusable. But anyway, since we are on how the U.S. government and citizens can reach a solution,
hold on before we switch topics.
Wait,
it sounded like
I also have a lot more to say on this topic. I'm sorry.
No.
I just want to have a chance to jump in.
Yeah, Noah wanted to jump in, and then we're gonna keep going for a while, so it's fine.
Okay, so I hear you. You say it's still bad if it's not a genocide. I agree, but if we're gonna use the term genocide, it's irrelevant to actually be able to show that it is a genocide if we're going to use that term. And I think, yeah, fine. You want to say it's not about the numbers? I think that's fair. I think the intent is far more clear that it's not a genocide than the numbers. There simply is not an intent to wipe out the Palestinian people. Palestinians and Arabs live as Israeli citizens with full rights within Israel. They are not being genocided. That's
simply not true.
That is absolutely
That's simply not true.
That's 21% of
21. But yeah, that's significant.
Yes. The people
you can call them citizens there. They do not live there with the same rights. They do not live there with the same rights.
Okay, well, you're wrong.
It is not functionally the same. It's just like saying, oh, well, it's illegal to discriminate by age in America. That does not matter if it still happens, you guys. It still happens that they are discriminated against over there. And I am happy to provide video evidence of this because I don't think I will convince you otherwise. But it's simply not true.
I don't contest that there's discrimination. There's discrimination in every single country on planet Earth. It's horrible. It's not genocide. When discriminatory actions by individuals when it's just simply not genocide. Palestinian Arabs in Israel who are Israeli citizens have equal legal rights. Discrimination should be condemned, just like discrimination in our country should be condemned. But they are not being genocided. I mean, showing me a video of someone saying something racist to a Israeli Arab is not slaughtering
Oh,
every
that's actually
single.
not what I'm talking about, because racism and discrimination in one thing, and like systematic, systematically different ways that you treat Jews and and not Palestinians, but Arabs in Israel. It's there. I will send you the links to show that it is there, because this is another one of those things that if people don't see it with their own eyes, they will not believe it. They will not believe the racism. They will not believe that it is a societal thing. You know, because I will send you the links I have on that. There's just no way to describe it. But
just
to the
to
point,
try to wrap it up, like wrap that part of it up. You're saying
Sure.
it's systemic. It's systemic racism rather than like directly over like racism, like written down in the law, right? It's like laws that like how we have it here, but probably worse, I would assume.
yes. And if it's functionally giving you different rights, you have different rights. I do not care what it says. You know, I care effectively what it does.
Fair.
But going back to the whole Gaza and is it a genocide thing, I will also send you the reports from NGOs and humanitarian organizations prior to October 7th that have called what is going on in Gaza apartheid.
We
I
lost it
think,
again.
yeah,
And
You're back.
so weird. Okay. Anyway, even experts have said that there is a genocide in Gaza, so rather than try to convince you myself, I'll just send you those expert opinions, because we've got whole organizations, whole NGOs saying that this is genocide, that there's apartheid going on in Israel, that they do not live under the same set of rights, and in Palestine there is genocide. You know, I'm not pulling it out of a hat here. I just think that if those voices haven't reached your ears, there's a reason for that. And I'm happy to share the links that I have, because it's not hard to take examples of what has happened and easily fit them to the description of genocide.
Can you
So maybe we'll have to have a follow-up description.
send
Sorry?
me the genocide ones too? I've seen the apartheid ones. Those are easy to find because it's
I will send you
a
the
lot more
genocide
straightforward.
ones,
I feel
absolutely.
like, but the genocide ones, yeah, I'd like to see those ones. Okay.
Okay. Well, within Israel proper, at least, there is simply not an apartheid. That's just functionally incorrect. Arabs and Palestinian Israelis live with rights. Sure, there might be discrimination. Live with rights. They are elected to the government. They function in government-controlling coalitions. It's just that it's simply not apartheid within Israel proper. Now, if you want to argue that there's an apartheid in the West Bank, I'm open to that argument, and that I completely believe that all Israeli citizens should be pulled out of there to remove any kind of apartheid situation. But within Gaza itself, even the response of Israel, I mean, if they wanted to, they could kill way more people, and I'm glad they don't. They should kill way less. But to say that they're trying to wipe them all out when other nations kill far more people in far less dense areas with far less powerful weapons, it's hard to argue that Israel's trying to wipe them out when they've been more selective than many other governments have ever been in their
You
conflicts.
cannot be selective with 750-pound bomb that you drop unguided. There is no selectivity in that. And Israel, there's proof from inside Israel that they are using AI to target, you know, what they pick as targets. And so I think it's disingenuous to claim that they're trying their hardest to like not kill civilians. They know the civilian casualties before they happen, and they target those sites anyway. There is even a specific category of airstrike targets that they have, which are straight up not military bases. They're described as being like population centers or like areas of life, essentially. And those are literally a category of target. And so to say that Israel is not trying to kill the citizens is wrong. Anyway, I will send you my sources because that's, again, a whole other debate. And I'm happy to have this whole other debate about those definitions. I know that that's really what we're not trying to do here. You don't have to call it genocide, but I don't want to look back and say, wow, how did we not see it?
Okay, we're gonna.
I think we.
Oh.
I think we all. I think on some level we all see it. Like. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even Noah at like collective punishment would be like, yeah, that's a bad thing that we shouldn't be doing and we should stop. Right? Obviously.
Well, yeah. It's also.
Well, we
just,
should, but we aren't, right? Because a ceasefire is not an option.
Well, this last ceasefire ended because Hamas said we're not going to release your women and children anymore that we have, even though.
That's okay. I actually have videos I want to send you from that period of ceasefire because I actually have a video from like the first day of the ceasefire showing IDF attacking people walking back to the north to their homes in Gaza. And so I would argue the ceasefire never really functionally worked. And Hamas, while they absolutely did fire during the ceasefire, were not the ones to break the ceasefire. And anyway, there's just been a lot of propaganda and information that has not probably reached mainstream sources that I have seen just by like the Palestinians posting. And I just don't believe, Israel has ever taken the ceasefire seriously, because prior to October 7th, actually Israel was the one that broke ceasefires. And I will also send you the timelines showing that.
I completely disagree. Hamas has been the key violator of ceasefires. The most recent ceasefire ended not because anyone fired, but there was an agreement. Ceasefire keeps going as long as Hamas, you give us something like 10 a day. Israel was giving way more than that per day. And
so Israel had way more
Hamas
than that per day because
we're
they
done.
kidnapped them. Right? Hostage thing, right? We know when Hamas got their hostages, on October 7th. You ever stop to question why Israel can trade far more than the amounts of that on the drop of a hat? Because they have always locked up Palestinians from the West Bank and held them without charges. I understand your point about, yes, great, there's a hostage swap. Why is there a hostage swap? Why did Israel have hostages before October 7th was a thing?
I mean, this conflict has been going on for a long time. These were
hostages, Noah. These were hostages without trial, without charges. Why did they have them?
Why does any combatants have hostages without trial? I mean, both sides had hostages without trial.
Israel is a
not
country.
Just Israel.
No. I am asking you why Israel had hostages to swap with Hamas.
Because they captured people. That's why. Just like Hamas captured people.
Okay.
So
I want to cut in and say that it's from what I understand, it's a mixed bag. Some of them definitively did try to kill people, and it's very obvious. Others have been held without trial for extended periods of time.
So the majority of the ones released were held for extended periods without trial.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You don't have to release the people that have actual charges against them.
I
would love to see Israel's evidence of the crimes against them too, because at this point, if you don't agree that Israel lies about very casually verifiable things, then I don't know how we can agree on things. You know, like I understand
I
Israel can
agree with
say
you
that
Israel
they
lies.
arrested them for A, B, and C, but if there's no evidence and they never went to court, and in fact, if they had to go through a military court when Israelis don't have to go through military court,
Yeah.
then this whole conversation is just disingenuous.
I mean,
But-
You know?
but-
Israel should not have had hostages that did not have charges to their name.
Both sides had hostages they shouldn't have, and Israel was willing to give far more.
But Israel
especially
had
when-
them first, Noah. October 7th is when Hamas had these hostages, specifically to do a hostage exchange, right? So then why did Israel have their hostages prior to October 7th? If you're going to tell me it's a conflict, well, then clearly it's not a conflict that Hamas kicked off, right? Why were there 5,000 people detained without trial?
Let's let Oliver cut in. And
Go
then
ahead, Oliver.
I just want to cut in and say that another reason that Hamas grabbed so many hostages was so that they would have currency to spend whenever they needed temporary ceasefires to essentially regroup as they fought defensive war that they knew they were kicking off. But sorry, that was just this tiny interjection. Please carry on.
All right, we're gonna go Noah, and then we'll go back to Olivia, just to give Noah a chance to respond.
Okay, yeah, sure. If you want to make the argument that there are people that Israel has captured that they should not have, fair. I think that's fair. I think there's plenty of Hamas terrorists and operatives that Israel's captured too, and Hamas has demanded that Israel give back its terrorists. Israel said, "Fine, we'll give you tons of them, and don't even give us back our IDF soldiers. Give us back our women and children." And Hamas said no.
So there was a 200-page list. I wonder if you saw it. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the whole Hamas asking for their terrorists back is not something I encountered, and so I would really like to see that, because the first iteration of the list that they released from hostages they wanted back from the Israeli side, the majority of it was women and children. Majority of them did not have any charges associated with their name. And so, like, I don't want Hamas to get their, combatants back. Like, it's not on Israel to do that, you know? That's Israel arresting genuine military targets, and, like, that's fine. But, I feel like it's disingenuous to talk about hostages all the time and not acknowledge that Israel has an actual policy of locking up people and not giving them a trial. And this has gone on for years. I don't want to say decades, but at least a decade. And so, it was a hostage swap, but why did Israel have hostages? Like, why is the pressure not ever on Israel to just stop the quite frankly, far greater scale of atrocities that they are committing? Hamas, like, no matter what they do, they can't fucking touch the war crimes that Israel has committed at this point, with the backing of our country, our bombs. This military-industrial complex of ours, like, it has done so much more damage than Hamas could ever have done.
So just to try to, like, wrap what you just said back into the topic, one of the things America should not do is give them, 200-pound bombs or whatever, if they're going to drop them on civilian areas. Just to wrap that back into...
Yeah, if they're going to drop them at hospitals, absolutely. Let's just stop giving them our tax dollars and our bombs, and let them figure out a solution that doesn't involve carpet bombing.
Okay.
Oliver, you got something, or
yeah,
you want
I
me
do.
to jump in?
I
Okay.
have something to say. The first thing I want to say is that I think the real risk that Hamas poses to Israel is not a direct military threat from itself, but rather a conflagration into a regional war. I think that's the main military threat that Hamas poses to Israel. And that is a very real threat. Not in the sense that it could ever wipe out Israel, but in the sense that it could make things a lot worse. It is my fear that if we were to completely stop giving Israel weaponry, that they would go to someone else like Russia, who really, really, truly just don't give a flying fuck about, humanitarian anything. It's not like they lack money. It's not like they lack a way to make money or to get, weapons. But in any case, I agree that we've been incredibly complacent. We've basically just funded their war crimes. It seems to me that one very obvious thing that we should be doing is tying any military aid to Israel pulling back from settlements in the West Bank, and to actually acting in good faith, like saying, "Hey, we'll give you stuff. Really, we will make you safe, and we will do it on our dollar. But you have to act in good faith. You have to work towards long-term peace. You have to work towards a two-state solution." I think that could be one thing that we could do in the long run. And yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to put Israel under sanctions right now for their behavior.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable for sanctions, and I think, Biden has said that he will not put any red lines for the weapons that we send over, and it's literally sending the opposite message of what we need to be doing. If we're backing this, then it needs to be with the guarantee of safety of people that are not involved. Like, everyday civilians should not be main casualties, obviously. Oh, yeah. I completely agree with, if you're going to use our money to defend yourself, pull out your settlers from the West Bank, because that is not defending yourself. I think that we need to draw a very clear line about what self-defense is and when it crosses into attacks, unjustified attacks.
Yeah, really sneaky conquest, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will disagree at one point, though, because I don't agree that if we pull back, that they are going to find better help somewhere else. We are the best goddamn help that you will possibly get. And, the proof is in the pudding. We voted no, the only country to vote no to a ceasefire, and guess what the world did? No ceasefire. It is us that they need to have the backing of. Now, if they run elsewhere, they're still going to be trying to do the exact same things they're doing now. We are the most effective partner that they can have in getting that done quickly, which is why the U.S. is stopping resolutions from calling for ceasefires. We have the power to do that. And I don't think that they would have that effective of an ally if they lost us, which is why I truly think that Israel needs to lose us as an ally if they keep the policies that they have. Fine, use our money to defend yourselves. I have no problem with that. Don't use our money in the name of this aggression. Don't drop bombs that were built for hardened military targets, things made out of concrete, like bunkers under the ground. Don't drop those on hospitals. Don't drop them on apartment buildings. Don't tell people to move to the south and then bomb them as they're moving south. Those should be very obvious lines of the ground.
Oh, yeah. Yep, bombing the humanitarian route in the beginning of the war. Yep.
And absolutely don't tell Israel, we will not draw any red lines for you in the sand. That's ridiculous.
I agree. I want to say that it's not, I wasn't saying that we aren't the best help that they could get. I agree that we are. In fact, all their weaponry is probably designed to work with, NATO calibers of shells and, rifle rounds, etc. But they certainly could get help elsewhere if they really needed to.
They could, which is why I'm not,
Yeah, I mean,
I just want us to have a hand in changing the conflict.
I agree, yeah. I mean, I think the answer isn't to go cold turkey on Israel. It's to do everything we can to pressure Israel, especially in the long term, to actually work towards a peaceful resolution. Like they've grown fat on our military aid. Okay, let's actually use that power. The fact that we are one of the only countries that probably has all that much sway over them, like, let's leverage that. Let's leverage. I mean, the funny thing about this, it doesn't even serve our own geopolitical needs. Like, on some level, yes, Israel. It's a very convenient geopolitical partner for us. It doesn't serve our own geopolitical needs for Israel to just be trying to do this really sneaky, quiet conquest in the West Bank. Like, that makes it more unstable. That makes everything more unstable. It's not even serving our own needs. Like, what the? Okay, I'm not gonna swear, but it's ridiculous, right? Yeah, we need to use our power to leverage Israel into stopping this policy of bullshit annexation in the long run. I will say, in the short run, I don't know. It's hard for me to really speak too much on what happens in a war. Again, none of us are exactly military experts. But yeah, there have been many red lines in my mind that Israel has crossed, and the fact that we haven't even virtue signaled to the world that there is something. It's only recently that Biden said anything publicly. I mean, he said plenty of things privately to Israel, but it was only recently that Biden even said anything publicly about how Israel needs to behave itself better during this war, which is just ridiculous. Yeah.
Let's know. I was gonna say let's let No go.
Okay. I very much sympathize with the points made about issues with the West Bank, and I am completely open to the United States conditioning aid off of some sort of withdrawal from the West Bank. I'm open to that idea completely. But what I will say about, especially some of these terms we've been using about, like, following hospitals and whatnot. I mean, and ceasefires. I mean, look, we had a ceasefire, and I know we keep moving to the point. Why does Israel even have prisoners that they've captured? Well, they have them, and Hamas has prisoners, and you can say, well, Hamas got theirs later, but they both have prisoners, and they are both at the table exchanging them. And it was Hamas who unilaterally said, even though Israel was giving them a great deal with way more exchange rates, but it was Hamas who said, no, we're done. And Amnesty International, going to the hospitals, has for years confirmed that Hamas uses hospitals for military operations. And we even recently in this conflict had rockets being fired out of hospitals. So Hamas, I would argue, is more of a purveyor of conflict at hospital locations than anyone else.
Disagree, because guess what? Hospitals are never legitimate military targets.
That's
ever.
Not technically
It's
true.
a war crime.
International law.
Look,
Under international
listen.
law, you can target hospitals if they're being used as a military.
Okay, Hamas is not using hospitals as military bases, and there's literally a report from today in, like, either the New York Times or the Washington Post, one of those two. You guys can go and look it up. The Hamas tunnels don't connect hospitals, and there is no evidence. They found no evidence of them using those hospitals as command centers. Even if that were the case, okay? Should not bomb hospitals, okay? Everyone else in that hospital does not deserve to die because a couple people there are bad actors, okay? I think it's very obvious that this is true, because if Hamas was hiding in an Israeli hospital, they would not have dropped the same bomb to target Hamas there. We have bombs that can actually surgically strike where we want them. In multi-story buildings, it will only target those couple rooms that we want. Israel has those. They are not using those. Okay? in no world is saying Hamas is there actually justify what they've done. Okay? It's an excuse. Hamas using people as human shields is an excuse as well. You don't get to shoot the human shield to get to Hamas. Like, respectfully, if a terrorist ran into your house right now, they do not get to bomb your house to get at the terrorist. Okay, and we're not talking about houses, we are talking about apartment buildings and hospitals that have thousands upon thousands of innocent people. The ratio to guilty and innocent is insane. They're not legitimate military targets. They do not get to drop those type of bombs on those type of targets. Okay, if Hamas is there, figure it out another way. We've got plenty of ways to do that. Especially if, as you say, this is just a hospital and you just have to find the command center and like the rest of the hospital is running normally. Like, it's not like you're gonna in and everyone in the hospital turns into a terrorist that's gonna attack you. There's people in that hospital doing their job, and there's people in that hospital being born, and there's people in that hospital trying their best not to die. They do not deserve to have bombs dropped on them just because Israel can claim that Hamas is using it as a base. Okay, that does not fly in so many other places in the world. It should not fly in Palestine. If on October 7th, Hamas had taken those hostages and sheltered in the kibbutz, right? Those kibbutz did not deserve to get carpet bombed. The scale of response is insane. And I think saying that, like, okay, sure, Israel had hostages, yeah, that's all right, that's part of reality. Come on, hold them accountable. Just like we're trying to hold Hamas accountable for all the bullshit that they've done, why not hold Israel accountable? They are the stronger party. They have had longer to fix their policies. They're a functioning country.
I think Noah was just trying to, like, when he was saying that, he was just trying to say, I'm trying to move that past that point to the point I was trying to make, like, accepting.
Right, but like, it's not really a point you should blow past. Like, it's.
You cut out again.
The thing that. Yeah. I don't know what's up with my thing. But. Okay. I think the thing that we try to blow past is the thing that you should analyze. And I think that that's the problem with this overall. And I think it's the reason we all so easily can see the long-term solution, but not the short-term one. Because if you are not doing the proper work in analyzing why the hell Israel even had hostages to exchange, not looking at this conflict correctly. You know, this should not have been a thing that could happen. There should not have ever been a need for a hostage exchange. But Israel created that situation. You know, they had hostages. In order to do a hostage swap, Israel needed to have hostages to swap, and they certainly didn't get them after October 7th. They arrested almost exactly the amount of people that they released in their hostage swap, and so the total amount of Palestinian hostages never actually changed. You know, I'm happy to talk about that, but like, you should absolutely do more work to analyze why the hell Israel had hostages.
Okay, you say hold Israel accountable. I think holding.
I'm sorry, can I cut in really quick?
Yes, go ahead.
A lot of very clear evidence that there are tunnels in the hospital complexes. But anyway,
Yeah.
Sorry, please continue, Noah.
Yeah, you can keep going if you have more, but.
No, that was just something I wanted to
Okay, yeah. No, you say hold Israel accountable. I think holding anyone accountable is give the prisoners back. And Israel was willing to do that. Hamas was for a little bit.
That's actually not true. Sorry, I need to stop you there because that's actually not true. And like, one of the first things Hamas demanded during this and almost immediately after October 7th was the release of all their hostages. You know, they actually asked the hostage swap first, right? And it didn't happen. Okay, it is only happening now because Israel has had to concede to it.
This isn't happening now. It happened a while ago, and they were both exchanging. They were actively exchanging, and then Hamas broke the exchange. That is absolutely clear.
Okay, now, as in like after October 7th, respectfully, there was no way to ever get Palestinian hostages back before October 7th. You know? The one card Hamas actually fucking has are those hostages. You know? We keep saying all of the cards are in Israel's court. Yeah, that's the point, you know? Like, they literally, Hamas has got the one. And they wouldn't have even had it if Israel didn't have hostages to give up. And they demanded their hostages back, and it didn't happen. You know, the carpet bombing campaign happened instead. Okay, so ask yourself why it is that Israel finally decided to start negotiating for the hostage swap after all of the bombing occurred. Not all of the bombing, because of course we went right back to it, right? But one of the very first things
broke the truce, so of course you're going
to. Okay, but one of the very first things requested was a hostage swap. And so the hostages could have been regained almost immediately. But that proposition was rejected. And you can say, oh, we don't negotiate with terrorists or whatever, but like, they had the chance to get their hostages back, and Israel didn't take it. You know? And the ceasefire was threatened twice, you know? There was a time when Hamas was going to stop releasing hostages because Israel didn't hold up its end of the agreement of letting humanitarian aid into Gaza. So these are negotiations, you know, like that's the thing I feel like you're failing to realize here. The only reason these negotiations are happening is because hostages exist to be swapped. And that's something Israel fucked up in.
Both sides did. Both sides absolutely fucked up.
No, because before this, one side did not have hostages to exchange. You need to realize
Hamas has had Israeli hostages before. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Okay. Hamas has had Israeli hostages before, and Hamas having hostages for a hostage swap, different topics. And I'm saying there has never been a time where Hamas could do a hostage swap with this.
That's not true. There's been hostage swaps throughout the last decade. Of course there's been times. It's happened, and every time Israel is willing to agree to a number where Israel gives far more hostages back. So Israel is willing for one.
Okay. I
don't think that
we're way off.
Yeah, we keep going back and forth, and you're right. Like
it's the same point. We're way off topic, and we still have one whole topic to do.
Do you guys remember Gilad Shalit?
No.
I mean that. Wait. No, really. That was the prisoner to hostage exchange where Yahya Sinwar was released, and that guy kicked this shit off. So, anyways, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay, we gotta do outros. If you guys still want to do outros, you guys each got 2 minutes. You have to hold the 2-minute outros. And then we got to do this last thing and be done because it's 11:30.
Yeah, I mean it just it's so funny. We disagree so much on the minutia.
No.
We end up.
I think that's the interesting part actually. Like I think we all like the broad strokes. We're all kind of in agreement, and then we get into like the little details of everything, and like we disagree on different parts of every point and stuff.
Sure. Can I say?
There's even like some people are missing information on some things and other things. So then everyone's got to send each other all the articles, which I'm very down to read more articles.
Yeah. Olivia, please send me articles too.
Please like send a list of stuff that I've mentioned that you would love sources on, because I'm not going to remember it all, but I will send everything that I.
Okay,
and then so we need to do our 2-minute outros. So,
wait, before the outros, can I just get a word in really quick?
Yeah,
before the outros?
Cool, get a word in.
Okay, alright, so really quick, I just want to say, again, I don't think any of us can exactly totally speak on military policy, but all that said, the way that Israel conducted the carpet bombing at the beginning of this campaign, it didn't evacuate first, just started bombing, and then when it did announce evacuation routes, it initially bombed the route until international, pressure said, no, you can't do that. I mean, it is a consistent tactic before ground invasions for a city to be bombarded, just because it's incredibly difficult for a ground force to basically make their way through a city unless it's, you know, has a lot of destruction first. That is my understanding of that. I also want to say that it's not like the IDF is even having an easy time of fighting Hamas, even with the city completely leveled. So I reject the notion that fighting Hamas was ever exactly an easy prospect. All that said, it doesn't excuse, again, Israel's behavior, all the crimes against humanity that Israel has committed. And I agree that arguing about that, or about the minutia of how a war is carried out, I agree that it dodges the entire question of what's all the stuff that should have been done leading up to this unilaterally that would have prevented this from ever happening. And there's just a million things that Israel could have done prior to this that would have worked towards a peaceful resolution unilaterally, seeing as Israel holds the cards. And I think that's what we always should have been pressuring Israel to do, and that is what we should continue to pressure Israel to do. Actually, let me rephrase that. That's what we should start pressuring Israel to do, because it seems like we don't even fucking do that. I mean, again, back on the debate topic that this part of the debate is about, right? Like, one of the fundamental issues with our foreign policy when it comes to Israel is that it's stuck in, you know, the pre-90s era of Israel, where all of Israel's neighbors were attacking Israel, right? And we were trying to keep this thing alive, right? Well, that period of time is gone. All these other states are, like, a lot of them aren't even that functional. I mean, they're not going to attack Israel, and yet everyone is stuck in this mentality of Israel needs to survive. Israel's alive and well. It's not dying. It's not going anywhere. It has nuclear weapons. Like, you know, it's not going away. So, you know, yeah, reframing, even beginning to start pressuring Israel again into actually working towards a two-state solution instead of this ridiculous conquest. You know, even though it's prior to October 7th, was a very quiet conquest, if we want to call it that, a very propaganda, whitewashed conquest. You know, that's kind of what it was in the West Bank. So, yeah. I think that on some level, debating how a war is carried out beyond condemning the crimes against humanity, it kind of obfuscates everything that could have been done prior to this.
All right, I'm gonna use that as your outro because it was pretty lengthy, and then Noah's gonna do his outro. Olivia's gonna do her outro, and then we gotta move on.
Yep.
Fair enough. I disagree that it has to be Israel unilaterally. You've got two sides. There's both things both sides can do. Israel needs to pull out of the West Bank, like they did with Gaza. Hamas needs to stop continuously firing rockets for the last 15 years, like they've been doing. I think throwing around terms like hospital, I mean, that invites a discussion on military conflict. I mean, like I said, I'm not referencing Israel or its government. Amnesty International has been clear that hospitals have been used for military operations by Hamas. And to say, well, it's a hospital and Hamas using it as a military target, Israel shouldn't do anything. I mean, I just think it's an expectation that no other country on planet Earth would have. And as long as Hamas is using these areas to fire rockets, there is clear evidence that they've used the humanitarian zones to fire rockets as well. Israel is going to respond as long as that's happening. It doesn't matter what we say or do; they will respond to that, and any other country would. And I think the United States State Department could do more to pressure change in the West Bank. But as far as with Gaza, I think they've done an excellent job strong arming Israel into allowing humanitarian aid in, and I think they should allow even more in.
Okay, Olivia, take us home.
Okay, so unfortunately, part of note cut off, but I think ignoring the fact that hospitals are being bombed is one of the main issues that we have here. And I did not say that they should not do nothing. I very clearly pointed out that we have the type of airstrikes that will target just the areas of the floor. If they're operating on a specific floor in a specific room or in a specific command center, we have the type of munitions that will go after that way more precisely than what we are seeing now. Okay, and so Hamas bases are just being used as excuses. That is what is going on. I think it's just disingenuous to say otherwise. It was a hospital. I do not care what other, if 1% or 1% of the activity going on was non-hospital related, that is not the hospital's fault. And I think it's insane that you would say that no other country in the world would accept this. No other country in the world would ever accept their hospitals being bombed just because you pretended there's a terrorist inside. And if there was a terrorist inside, show me the terrorist, go and get the terrorist, don't kill all of my innocent family members and neighbors. The rest of the population could do it. You know, that's not winning any sort of war. I said this at the beginning and I'm going to say it again. You're not going to crush Hamas like this. You can't crush the need for resistance by creating these conditions where so many more people feel the need to resist. You know, if Israel really wants to stop this, and if we really want to stop this, we can be pressuring Israel to just treat the Palestinians as humans. Take the wind out of fucking Hamas's sails for all I care, you know? It's so easy to delegitimize them. And yet, you know, Israel can't do that.
Oh, yeah.
It would be so easy. So many Palestinians do not support Hamas. It would be incredibly effective if Israel actually started helping Palestinians get rid of whatever, you know, but that's not what they're doing. They're not trying to kill the ideology of Hamas. They're just trying to kill Palestinians. And they're not trying to kill Hamas. They're trying to kill Palestinians. Truly, that's what it is. You know, and you can argue otherwise, but I have seen the videos after field executions in Khan Yunis, and I have seen bulldozers tearing apart cemeteries, okay? Like, that's not targeting Hamas. That's targeting civilians. That is targeting their memories. That is targeting the things that they care about, okay? The way you destroy populations is not just killing the people, it's killing everything that has to do with them, okay? And so when I see bulldozers going in and taking down the statue of like the martyrs and of things that Palestinians have erected in order to remember like past intifadas, that very clearly demonstrates that this is not about Hamas and that the solution to this is never going to be centered around Hamas.
Okay. Wait, I gotta cut you off.